So again, it's good to see everyone. So we're looking at ICT application. We talk about ICT application because this is one of the topics that probably every student get a phobia on. They are fighting, they're scared. I get messages as they prepare for their IGCSE People 1, Mr. Joe, ICT application is just too much. What do I do? I can't read everything, Mr. Joe. And I'm just getting all of them. What do I focus on? Because it's too much. The subtopics are so too much. So what do I do? What do I focus on? And in this video, I will be sharing those things right here as we do a glance through on this topic. Okay, so this topic covers a different numbers of applications that is associated with the use of ICT. You need to take note of that. And many of these applications, okay, bring together some of the things we've talked about in previous videos, in previous classes. Okay, so there are many examples of the use of ICT. Okay, we've talked about many of the use of ICT. So now we'll be looking at more or less various applications of ICT in various fields. And the first one that comes to mind is communication. But before we do that, we also have to, yes, we'll begin with communications. Okay, so communication is essential, right? Because if you're talking about ICT application, what's the first place you're going to apply ICT? Communication, right? Literally communications. So there's several communication systems that we'll be talking about, okay, that make use of the ICT technology. So for example, it's right there on the screen. We have newspapers, we have posters, we have websites, we have multimedia presentation, we have media streaming, and we have the e-publication. Okay, so these are the things that we'll be talking about in this particular course. All right. So let's talk about communications. Now, we'll be looking at communications from two angles. We'll be looking at it from the paper base, and then we'll now be moving into a more modern base, talking about the electronic base. So this is very important. So let's talk about the paper base, right? And there are two things we want to talk about. First thing is newsletters. I'm pretty sure most of you here know what is newsletters, right? You already know what's newsletters. Now, most of the time in school, you get newsletters, okay? Especially for the end of the term, you get newsletters telling you about activities that have taken place for the term. And you do that, right? So newsletters are very useful, okay, for getting information to a target group, okay, especially in the areas. I'm just going to streamline it to school. Are those activities that have taken place or activities that will probably take place for the next academic session. And again, newsletters are printed. Okay, they are printed. If it is made available, online, it is seen as an e-publication, which we're going to see later on in this particular topic. Okay, so it all depends on the target group. Since this is more or less like an educational sector, we'll just focus our activities on that. Okay, so it's based on the target group, and this is very important. So it is more or less printing these newsletters and then handing them off to the target groups. In this case, the parents, prospective parents who wants to probably join the system. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, but most of the time, it is nearly impossible to be certain that they have read it. That you are handing off these newsletters to them, you cannot even be sure if they have read it. You can't even be sure that they have read it, right? But again, our focus here is about that why this is one vital tool for getting information to a target group. Yes, it is printed, right? And it is sent out to this target group that you want them, information that you want them to take note of. right? Information that you want to communicate to them. So this is very, very important. Okay. And again, when we talk about these newsletters, they are produced with a word processor. What about word processor? A good example is your Microsoft Word. Okay, they are produced with a word processor. So it simply means that right here on the screen, you can see photos on newsletters. You've seen these newsletters, right? It has pictures um, of certain activities and a lot of write-up, links, advert can also go in as much as possible. Okay, so, and of course, creating a newsletter, and there are various steps that could be done. First, you need your word processor to be opened. Of course, these photos that you want to insert into your word processor can be obtained from either from the internet or photos that you have taken pictures of for the activities that you want to post to friends, to students, etc., etc., etc. And of course, if it's something that is hard copy, there are photos that are hard copy, you can probably scan it, right? Literally scan it. And that is important. If it's pictures that you want to take with your camera, that is also important. So let's take note of that. Okay. Of course, once these photos have been imported, I'm just trying to give an overview of what it is we're having here. Probably I'm just going to get a lesser pointer, just an overview to explain what we're seeing here. So more or less, the next thing is once these images are inserted into our newsletters, we can crop them. A good example is using the Microsoft publisher, to actually accomplish your tags. Okay, so text can be typed in, okay, and photos can also be placed in the correct order, just to give you an idea of what the newsletters we're talking about. So it is very important for getting that information. The next thing I want to talk about is posters. Posters. Now, when we talk about posters is a good way for publicity. It's a good way of making publicity, trying to create awareness. And probably you've seen these posters, right? You've seen these posters. Okay. Probably if you're driving with your parents, you've seen these posters. And most probably we'll be talking about some certain posters and something that we can actually relate. A book launch poster, a movie poster. Right here, you can see some movies, Star Wars, right? I think Star Wars is a common movie. Okay, I think it's a common movie, and it's not going to be flag. It's a common movie. Okay, Star Wars. Okay, so this is a good way of actually publicizing it. A sporting event, or a forthcoming movie. Okay, and again, a sporting event simply. Let's talk about sporting event. Simply means that if it's a sporting event or a sporting event poster, simply means that it has to include certain informations in the poster. There are certain informations that needs to be there to create the awareness of what you're trying to do. Okay, so let's talk about if it's a sporting poster. Well, it talks about the date and time in which the event is going to be held. If it's a movie poster, they both have the same similarities. Sporting, music, they will both have it because at the end of the day, you're going to see something like what the event is all about, the date, time of the event, and of course, an admission fee. Okay, you don't go watching those movies without paying a fee, or going to the sporting event without paying a fee, or going to a movie concert without actually paying a fee. So you have to actually pay a fee for it. Okay, yeah, contact details. Okay, contact details is very, very important because it's more or less about um where they need to contact for any to make any further inquiry. So this is very, very important. Okay, and there can be other informations, okay, such as the facilities that will be used for music, the O2 Arena, right? Yes, it's a popular arena for where great celebrities they go in to have their event. Okay, even in the UK, even the Nottingham Forest, the Wembley Stadium, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so this is very, very important. Again, posters can be printed using high quality printers or can be posted online. Let's take note of that. Okay, large posters have an advantage, and if they have an advantage, simply means they are eye catching. When you have a large poster, it's eye catching. It's very difficult to miss. Okay, very, very difficult to miss. Okay, And of course, they're used in various countries. Various countries. If you've traveled enough, you see that posters are everywhere. Literally, posters are everywhere. Okay, so this is really, really important. Are there any questions? No, if there are no questions, I would be moving to the next thing. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is, yes, now we've talked about the people base, and the people base, we only have um, newsletters and posters. Now, what I want, although we have flyers, okay, but more or less it's an old syllabus, but we all have an idea of flyers, right? It's still just like posters, okay? But so we'll just be looking at the electronic base right now. So in the electronic base, we're starting with website. Now, what you see on your newsletters, what you see on your posters can now be translated to website. Yes, can now be translated to website. And website tends to be used to advertise, okay, goods and services, which requires what? International coverage. Okay, international coverage. Rather than producing newsletters and posters by just printing them out, it is possible to just use the website for advertising. Okay, so this method of advertising requires, okay, an individual, a company to create, okay, their own website or pay companies to just advertise on their website, whichever one it is. Okay, so using the first option may require the company to employ a team. If you want to create your own website, okay, it simply means you need to have a team of web designers or experienced organizations to just help you to design your website. Okay, so that's very, very important. Again, it's also necessary to buy the hardwares and softwares to develop and store the website. Okay, and it can be expensive. I have some of my students in UAE and Saudi Arabia. They are working round the clock, to just create a website for Ajiro Tech. Because they want they want the website to be very massive, eye catching. For some reason, Ajiro Tech is a movement. Okay, so they want it. They don't just want the local website to just be created, but they want to have something everybody can be on, because of course we have a lot of plans and strategies to take HR Tech to the next level. Okay, so it is very important. It's expensive, but the cost does not stop there. Okay, you also need to use programmers to make sure that the website is safe from hackers. Okay, so teams of programmers right there, and also from any form of farming attacks. We will talk about farming when we get to chapter 8 of the textbook, right? There are videos already on there's videos already on the YouTube channel. So yeah, probably you could help yourself on that. Okay, so however, it is very cheap, right? For individuals or small organizations to create and host their own website. At the end of the day, it's quite cheaper. Okay. And there's something called off-the-shelf content management. We have the custom shell, we have off-the-shelf. It's something right here also in your O level, but there's more explanation on it in the A level IT textbook. Okay, and I also have a video on it, which probably I will be sending a link. I'll be sending a link to you guys on that off-the-shelf and custom shell, what it's all about. Okay, so now you have to pay hosting fee. When you create your website, you have to host the website. You have to host it. Okay, and hosting it simply means that when we talk about hosting, this is where if you are building a house, what happens? You have to buy a land, right? So it's not really complex. If you want to build a house, the first thing you do is buy land. So why you want to build a website, the first thing you want to do is probably getting all those things, building them offline. You probably want to rent a space on the web server. We're renting a space on the internet, and renting a space where you can be able to put your information there simply means you want to host the site on a platform. And we have GoDaddy, we have and other ones, right? GoDaddy, we have I've forgotten most of them, right? But there's a lot of them, there are a lot of hosting platforms that would host your site for a fee. Okay, one advantage, or let's call it the big advantage, okay, about website is that they offer worldwide advertising. Worldwide, okay? And so it's very cheaper to advertise your products than printing them and sending towards target audience, because now you can be able to reach people far and wide. Okay, far and wide. Okay, it offers that worldwide capability, and there is no need to buy any form of paper or any consumables or pay people to just deliver these newsletters to any form of target audience. Okay, so yes, so websites, they tend to be used to advertise goods and services which requires that international or national coverage. Okay, they can cover anything from car sales to advertising a musician forthcoming album. So that's what we use, right? So that is very, very important. Okay, yes. If we want to talk about certain advantage and disadvantages of using websites for, yes, I have Figma, right? That is on the whiteboard. Prefer this Microsoft whiteboard. Don't tell them I said that. Okay, so if we want to look at advantages and disadvantages, so I have this here. So advantages right here, okay, and disadvantages. Okay, of using websites. Of course, for communications. So I'm just going to talk about a few of them. So the first one is sound. One advantage we want to talk about here is sound. Sound, videos can be added. This is something we don't see in newsletters and posters. You can't just look at the poster and the poster, or maybe somebody's dancing the poster. That's not a poster. That is not his multimedia. Okay, so sounds, videos, and animations can be added, which is a very good advantage. Okay, which is a very good advantage, very good one. So we have sound, video can be added.
Oh, sir, good evening, Mr. Ajiro.
Yes, talk to me.
Yes, so please, I would like to know when does this class end at 8?
It's yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the next one is links to other pages, right? We can now have links to other pages. Okay. And again, we can have buttons for navigations. Buttons for navigations.
Yes.
We can now have buttons
Yes.
for.
I'm just telling the truth. I am just telling the truth. I have a Yahmad, I think.
So, but we have buttons for navigations. Okay, and of course, it can be seen by a global audience. It's a website, right? And the more you start doing your advert, people get to see them from across the globe. However, disadvantage is websites can be hacked. Websites can be hacked. Okay. And another one is it's necessary, right, for for your customers to have internet, computers, and internet connection. if anybody's going to see the information you have on your website, they need gadgets, okay? They need gadgets and they need an internet connection. This is not something we'd see. This is probably for newsletters and posters. It's not really a disadvantage because this information, they can view these informations offline. But when it comes to website, it is a disadvantage because you need to have your computers and internet connection. So it simply means that if you don't have your computer and internet connection, there is no way you can see those informations. Okay, so it is necessary. I'm going to round up by 8 to have your computers and internet connection. Okay, the next one is it is not as portable as the paper-based system. Okay, it's not as possible, but I think we can disagree on that because we have devices now that are smartphones that we can view these information on the move. So it's not really a disadvantage for us. Okay, maintaining the website is very expensive, right? There's a need for company to maintain the website, which can be expensive. Okay, and because it is a global system, it simply means that even target audience and non-target audience can view the website. So you're not probably getting what you need to get. If it's the sales, let's talk about sales. If it's the sales, you want to sell an item, there are people who probably will not be interested in those sales because you're creating an awareness, you're creating an advert, and people who have interest and don't have interest are going to see information, but the returns may not be what you want. So probably that becomes a disadvantage. Okay. And also it's not easy because people they have they're technophobes, right? So it simply means that they still need to find a way around the website, especially if your website is not designed in its simplicity. So they still need to find a way around the website to find the information that you want. Okay, so this is very important. So yes, any questions? So we've talked about the fact that sounds can be added as an advantage, links to other sites, hit counters. For the advantage, hit counter simply tells you the numbers of users that are visiting your website. Okay, so yes, disadvantage, it can be hacked. Okay, for customers going to your website, they need to have a computer internet connection, and of course, there's a need for the company to organization or company to maintain the website. And of course, you might not get the target audience that you require because it is a global system. So hope that okay. The next one is multimedia presentation. When we talk about multimedia presentation, this is simply the use of animation, video, sound, right? Which are more likely to grab the attentions of the audience. Okay, and can make the presentation easier to understand. Okay, with pictures, with videos, with animations, it can make your presentation easier to understand. And it simply means that for the presentations are produced with many software packages, with presentation packages. Okay, and those presentation packages, examples are your PowerPoint. Okay, we have Google Slides, etc., etc., etc. And of course, it is used together with a multimedia projector. This is something we know, right? So that the whole audience can be able to see what you're presenting. We're going to explore this more in chapter 9. We're talking about audiences. Okay, we are talking about audiences. So let's talk about the advantages of the multimedia presentation. So let's talk about the first one, the use of sounds, right? Use of sounds. Use of sounds and animations. Okay, which is definitely likely to grab the attention of your audience. Okay, and another advantage we can look at here is that with your multimedia presentation, you can have interactive hyperlinks. Hyperlinks where it can link from one slide to another or from your presentation to an external website. So, okay, possible to have interactive hyperlinks. Okay, built, inserted into your presentation. Okay, yes. Again, it can be interactive. Your presentation can be interactive because you're adding in sounds, transitions, animations, just to make your work look, to grab the attention of the audience. Okay, yes, so that is very, very important. Okay, so yes. Disadvantages. Let's talk about disadvantages. For disadvantages of your multimedia, disadvantages.
What was the last advantage?
Yes, can be interactive, and yes, that's what I said, can be interactive. And the reason why it can be interactive, let me just write it, can be interactive. And for a disadvantage, okay, I can move this here. Good. Just move this here. So now I have this. So for my disadvantage, of using multimedia presentations, so you need to have a special equipment, which can be expensive. You want to present, so you need to have a multimedia projector, and multimedia projectors are not cheap. Okay, so you need to have a specialized equipment. Now, in this case, a good example here is the multimedia presentations. Okay. Yes.
So do you mean projector? You said multimedia presentation.
Thank you very much. Multimedia projector, not presentations. Thank you. Projector. Okay. Another disadvantage is the fact that it is very easy to make a bad presentation. Very easy. Okay. To make a bad presentation. Okay. And we'll talk about bad presentation. There's too many animation effects, too much of text or images. I remember when I started presenting slides over a decade ago. When I think I started off with Microsoft PowerPoint 2003. I think I started with 2003. 2003. I started with 2003. So it wasn't easy. Right? My presentations were not really catchy. Was terrible, but obviously with time, that will work. But again, it is so easy. You think probably you're doing a presentation, a very good presentation, you're adding so many key effects, and just to know that, the presentation is actually bad. So that is very, very important, okay? Also, another disadvantage is the fact that there's danger when we're using multimedia presentation, right? Because usually the focus is usually on those transitions and animations, and they don't actually get to see or focus on the core content. So that can be a disadvantage. Okay, so that is very, very important. So the next thing we want to talk about is something that is.
Can you please write down the last disadvantage?
Yes, I said it is. There's a lot of danger while we're using the multimedia presentation, and reason why is that the focus is usually on those features of the multimedia presentation, like your animations, transition, etc., etc. Okay, rather than the content of the message, right? That you want to actually talk about to the audience. The next one is media streaming. Okay, for the media streaming, this is simply where users watch movies, right? Something you all like, right? Right? You watch movies, listen to music on devices connected to the internet. Everybody does that. Everybody does, right? Watch movies on the internet, right? And it's what is obtainable in this present century. It's what is obtainable, right? Everything is now streaming, right? From listening to music to watching movies, it is now streaming. Okay. So when you're using media streaming. Please take note, there is no need to download or save the video or audio file. No need, because it is stored on a server. And we know this, right? Your Netflix, Showmax, etc., etc. Right? So we know that we have YouTube, we have Spotify, we have Apple Music, we have Google Music. These are streaming platforms, right? You don't necessarily need to download the music because already it is stored in their server. So all you have to do is just go in there, listen, and watch. So when we talk about streaming, what is streaming? Right here on the screen. Streaming is a continuous transmission of video or audio files from a remote server where the files are stored. What does that simply mean? Right there on the screen. It simply means that data is transmitted and played in real time. Okay? Rather than downloading the file which is now stored in your local computer, they are now stored in their server, and all you have to do is just listen it. However, it all depends on your internet speed, because that will tell you the quality that you would get. Okay? And with streaming, okay, let's take note. The files is sent as a series of packet of data. We talked about data packets, right? In chapter 4, the networks and the effect of using them. We talked about it, right? And when we said packet talks about the fixed size of data, right? So this is they go in, they are being sent as what? A packet of what? Data. Okay, so which is now being interpreted by what? The web browser. A good example of a web browser is like a Google Chrome, Firefox, etc., etc. Streaming only works well if the internet speed is stable. If it's not stable, you probably are not going to you're probably not going to have a smooth experience. Especially if you're actually watching a movie and your internet is not stable, you probably will not have a smooth experience. This is where downloading becomes very important. Okay, so this is very, very important. Now there's something called buffering. Yes, buffering. Let's see if I have an highlighter. So not a highlighter. Let's see. So we have what we call buffering. Right, I want to write it here. Buffering. When we talk about buffering, what are we talking about? Now, it simply means that now we have playback, right? Playback of the media files, which is usually much faster than the rate at which the data is being received over the internet. Now, these data packets are buffered in the computer. So the whole essence of buffering is it makes sure that the video plays back smoothly without freezing. Now, what do I mean? Now, if you're watching a movie, and if you're very good in watching a movie, like your very self, okay, like your very self, okay, you're very good in watching a movie like your very self, you probably notice that when you watching it, when you're streaming a movie, you see that there is it kinds of downloads, right? And even if your network is bad, you can still be able to watch some couples of minutes or seconds before it goes through. It starts spinning round and round, telling you that you probably need to maybe there's no network or you have a weak signal. So that is just what it literally does in buffering. So you can see that the data packet is being received, it buffers, and then data is being sent to the playback device. So there's always a playback, so that even when you don't have a data, you can still watch those couples of minutes that you have watched. You can rewatch them over again, even without your internet. So this is very, very important. Okay, hope that is clear. We have other ones here like music scores that can be used as part of and to produce music. Okay, we have cartoons for animations, which is special devices that can use to just do that. So I hope that is fine. So I have my eraser here, and I can go to the next slide. E-publication. When we talk about e-publication, what are we talking about? We're talking about published papers that are now available in an electronic format. That's simple. published paper that are now, which is now available in electronic format. And we have ebooks, digital magazines, digital newspapers, digital libraries. Now, most of you ask me, when we talk about digital libraries, do you simply mean that we'll go to the library, get a book? No, you go to a library with your computer, right? They give you a login detail, you log in, it is properly timed, and you have access to so many books on that particular application, and you can be able to read and study. Good. Okay. So in most cases, publications can be downloaded on a device connected on the internet, which can be read. You can download them. They give license to download them, especially ebooks. Okay, you can download the books. Now, this is literally what we are seeing now. Rarely nobody buys books anymore. Rarely nobody buys books anymore. It's now ebook. Just go on the internet, download the ebook, Amazon, right? You pay for it, and then you have it. You have your copy on it. That is very, very important, especially your textbook, right? Because obviously we have the physical copy of the textbook, right? I don't want physical copy of the textbook. I can't be holding the textbook and be going around reading all the time because I love to read. So it simply means I had to buy the e-copy of the textbook in pounds, literally in pounds. Okay, and I'm giving it out for free. You out for free. Okay, so yes, so you have to buy these books, and they can be downloaded on your device. And if you wish to share, you can also share them, right? Okay, so we have digital magazines. Now, remember we talked about magazines can be offline, can be printed, but now when it's on the internet, it is called an electronic. The e-publication simply means electronic publication, okay? And of course, digital newspapers. We're seeing this, right? In the UAE news, the flash flood, right? All I had to do was just log into UAE news, and now I see it. All the information's on UAE, okay? Even in Manchester, right? I do go in there, Manchester evening, okay, Manchester evening to see what is happening in Manchester. Okay, so this is very, very important. They have advantages and disadvantages. Advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so let's take note of that. And of course, no printing cost is incurred. Okay, so you can actually read it online. Okay, so they have advantages and disadvantages. One advantage is the fact that videos are now embedded, right? Because it's e-publication. You can have videos, you can have pictures, you can have links, and you can swipe to your left, to your right. You can interact with it as much as possible. This is something that was not probably possible apart from pictures for the paper base. Okay, so the next one I want to talk about, the last one I want to talk about, probably we'll just cover 6.1, and in our next class we'll talk about other ones. The next one I want to talk about is communications. Under this communication, we're going to talk about mobile communication. Yes, mobile communication. When we talk about mobile communications, right? It simply means they make use of towers inside many cells. Okay, and they cover a lot of areas. So let's talk about the first mobile communication. I have there phone calls. I'm going to start with phone calls. Phone calls. But before we talk about these phone calls, please take note that mobile devices use, that right here, mobile, yes, devices, okay, either use, okay, a SIM card. I'll talk about this, a SIM card, or what? A wireless internet connectivity. Okay, so we'll talk about SIM card. SIM card simply means subscriber identity model. That's just what it is. Subscriber identity model. Okay, so you can use a SIM card to allow you to connect to mobile phone cellular network, or you use the wireless internet connectivity. Now, we'll talk about phone calls. Let's talk about phone calls as we try to round up. So phone calls, right, simply means your ability to make a phone call on the move. Okay, and mobile phones are so small, so they also have their own power source, right, which is your battery. Okay, and they are an ideal way of keeping in touch anywhere, provided there is what? A network signal. Take note of that. Right? It's an ideal way of keeping in touch, provided there's what? A network signal. Okay. Of course, mobile phones are still not as stable as the landline. And the reason why they're not stable as the landline is because you're on the move. Okay, you're bouncing from one cell tower to another cell tower, and you're probably going to lose some connections along the way. Okay, so using mobile phones to make calls has the following advantages. Using mobile phones to make calls have the following advantages, right? It is easier to keep in touch, keep in contact with your classmates. Okay, it is possible to conduct personal calls or businesses on the move. Okay, so that is very, very important. And we talked about the fact that it have to be SIM card or wireless connectivity, and that leads us to what we call the void IP, which is what the voice over internet protocol. We talked about it a little bit in chapter 5. Okay, we talked about a little bit in chapter 5 when we're talking about social interaction. Okay, now when we talk about the voice over internet protocol, and it's one of the most common features of what we call internet telephony. Yes, internet telephony. Okay, so that it means having a telephone conversation via the internet, making and receiving calls via the internet. Okay, so it's a method when you get to talk to people via the internet. Very, very important. Okay, so the video, in terms of video calling, we use softwares like FaceTime or Zoom, right? These are the two most popular video calling platforms, FaceTime or Zoom. You either FaceTime me, then we'll do Zoom. Although there are other ones like WhatsApp, Slack, Discord, and etc. etc. Right? Okay. Now, for video calling, what do they permit? For video calling, they permit live videos, audio chat, okay, screen sharing. You can screen share during a call. You could record during your sessions. That is very, very important. All right. The next one I want to talk about is SMS. SMS. And SMS, you're wondering, what does it mean? SMS simply means short messaging service. So SMS or text messages is a very quick way of communicating with one another by typing on the keyboard, right? Which is, for mobile phones now, they are virtual. Okay, you only see SMS on your mobile phone. You can't be using SMS on a laptop. Okay, on a mobile phone or a tablet. Okay, so an advantage is that the other person don't need to be available in SMS. Okay, you don't need to be available. Okay, I can drop the message and you pick it up when you probably your phone is turned on, or and then you can see that
when you come back on.
Yes, yes. When the phone comes back on, and then you can see that information. Some of the features of SMS or text messages include, okay, yes, it's very quicker and less expensive than making a call. Instead of trying to call you and trying to explain myself, oh, I'm sorry, I started the class late, I can just send a message. Quick one. I'm so sorry that I started the class a little bit late. Is it because, something came up or something like that? But okay, right. Yes. Feeling a bit guilty conscience, right? Guilty, right? Okay. Can be set at any time of the day, even if the recipient phone is switched off. So you need to take note of that. Okay. Predictive texting, AI, right? You type in and it helps you to complete it for you. So good. Okay. And okay, I'm just gonna say this. Fun fact, most of the time I don't type. I know most of people like, what are you saying? I don't type. I have Siri to just do some of the typing for me. Okay, so I just tell Siri, okay, I have an idea. All right, Siri, let's do this, right? Let's do this. And like, okay, fine, fine. And then we come up with an idea, right? I converse with Siri a lot because the new update of Siri is actually very, very good. And let's do this. And there we go. I've typed a lot of things without me typing. All I have to do is that say, get the keypad, and let's start typing, let's start typing, let's start typing, let's start typing. There are sometimes I have to do autocorrect, right? But most of the time, 80% of the time, I'm not typing, I'm just talking, and it's typing for me, and the message is sent. Okay, how do you think I have to do all this typing? What you want to do, right? Yes, this is the cat is out of the bag, but I still type. But majorly, I have this tools helping me out. So predictive texting is actually a great way because then if you're typing, it helps you to auto correct it for you. For example, you want to talk about software, so you can just type soft and it just completes it for you. Okay, so that is that. Then the final one, and then we call it a day, is accessing the internet. Accessing the internet from mobile phone is another valuable feature right here. Another valuable feature. Right here on the screen is any mobile device can connect to the internet either using a wireless broadband connection or via mobile phone network. Okay. Again, due to the use of smaller screens, internet pages displayed on mobile phones are often difficult compared to those on desktop. That is what we call viewport. This is something you see in chapter 21 of your textbook when you're talking about website authoring. Something we're going to see in year 10, right? In the next academic section. So this is very, very important. Okay. So yes, right. So access to the internet from mobile phone is a very valuable feature. Okay. So let's talk about the advantages. Advantage of accessing the internet is it's less expensive because it has a data plan. Okay, data plan. Yes, in developed world, it doesn't have a cap on how much data can be downloaded. Yes, I'm just going to go with that. I'm not going to say anything more, right? I don't want to talk about what our country is doing to us. I'm not going to talk about that, right? But yes, often data plans, right? Although we're seeing the fiber optics, right, which is more or less not capped. Okay, so yes, lower power consumption because the Wi-Fi, in terms of the Wi-Fi routers, are really much closer than the mobile phone towers. Okay, quality of service. Quality of service. The Wi-Fi, which is the wireless fidelity, something we talked about in chapter 4, networks and the effect of using them, offer greater bandwidth than the mobile phone network, given the possibility of downloading more data more quickly. So the mobile phone network is good, but having the broadband is way better because when you connect to it, you should be able to have more speed in downloading your data more quickly. In our physical class, we are going to start off with modeling application. Just to close the class and just for you to just probably start reading the textbook in preparation for our class. There's what we call simulation. Whenever anything is built, there is a prototype. Whenever any building is constructed, there is a simulation. And a simulation gives you an idea of what that thing is going to look like before it is being built. Thank you very much. Any question?